At Two College Brothers Moving, Storage, and Franchising, we are Team SmartMoving. This has been the CRM that we have used for the last 4 years, and it has grown right alongside with us. I love all the features, all the reporting tools, how easy it makes to schedule, book, sell, dispatch crews. It really is an intuitive software. It's really dialed in without the bugs and the glitches that we've experienced with other softwares in the past. So it still amazes me if a company is not using a CRM. I still find companies that are doing it the old-fashioned way with spreadsheets and calendars and notes and handwriting job orders, and you don't have to do that with SmartMoving. That's a bottleneck that's holding you back if that's you. So make the switch to SmartMoving, whether you're using a CRM or not. It truly is the smartest move you'll ever make, just like we tell our clients that we're the smartest move you'll ever make. So check out SmartMoving today and schedule your free demo. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. I'm your host, Wade Sweikel, broadcasting out of the new and improved studio here at Two College Brothers World Headquarters. Today, I have a special guest, Ryan Ferrier, longtime fan, first-time guest, as he says, with Packhorse Moving. They're a franchise currently with 4 locations. I'm excited to have Ryan on here to talk about franchising. I've seen Packhorse. I know you guys are a good company, another one of the good guys here, and excited to get to know you a little bit more. But Ryan, if you could just tell me a little bit about Packhorse Moving. Tell me your story, how you got involved in the moving industry, and a little bit more about Packhorse.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks, Wade. I really appreciate you having me on. As they say, first time, long time. So, I've definitely been a fan of yours and everything Two College Brothers have been doing. So this is an honor to talk to you. My story is a little bit different than most moving company owners. So I actually did not grow up in the industry. I decided to come into it by myself. I chose it. I jokingly say it chose me, but I actually really did have a passion for moving, for helping people out. I used to help a lot of friends, family, people at church on the weekends, all throughout my 20s. I'm now in my mid-30s now. I just loved it. I love organizing the truck. I love meeting new people, getting to help them out. And there's something about it. Something was definitely calling my name. I didn't realize it back then when I was doing it that I'd be where I'm at now. So that's a whole story we can jump into. But that got me started in 2020. I actually started doing this on the side. I started a side business, called it Packhorse Moving because of my name. My last name is Ferrier, so that has something to do with horses. And a packhorse actually used to be the mode of transportation for household goods. So it's a great name that suited us and as a company. And as you know, the most important thing, the URL is available. So Packhorse Moving was mine. So that's kind of how I got started in the industry.
Right on. So you say that you chose moving, or moving chose you.
Sure.
Like what were you doing before that? Why moving out of every other home service and just general business that you could have possibly started?
Yeah, definitely. So I was in corporate America. So I spent my whole career planning on being in corporate America. I went to college, got a degree in business. Worked in investment companies all throughout my career. I just wasn't finding fulfillment. I didn't have the control of, my daily responsibilities, my tasks. I wanted to do more at my job, actually, and I just wasn't allowed to, at least not for the compensation I was being provided. So, I knew I was always called to be an entrepreneur and start my own business. I came from a long line of business owners, my family, not in the moving industry. They all were in the sign business. So I always had a call to that type of work, just working with people and being involved in the service industry. And yeah, I guess I'll just harp back to, there's something about moving. It called to me. I would always help friends. I loved it. It was great. I loved getting a good workout. I loved structuring the truck and, how to pack things properly. And it was just a good adventure and everybody hated it. And I was like, why does everybody hate this? This is great. I'm sweating, having a great time. And, you're always hanging out with, friends or family and, get some pizza and beer or whatever it is. And obviously we changed our dynamics to that. It's not as, once I got in the industry, I realized, oh, wow, this isn't just eat pizza and drink beer and do that whole thing. It's very complex, and obviously there's a lot of rules and regulations. So, I started to train and teach myself that myself. I am very self-taught, which goes back to, being a huge fan of yourself. I pretty much watched every piece of content I could, from yours and literally everything else on the market. So I watched a lot of content, taught myself, and yeah, here we are.
Awesome. So you're in franchising. How long did you run your own moving company before you got into franchising, and why did you decide to franchise like instead of just opening up multiple locations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is mostly the trajectory you see a lot of moving companies go. I had a different vision for what I wanted to do personally. So to answer your question, it was about 3 years. So I started 2020, and then I prepared it for about a year, the franchising model, and then we launched it in the spring of 2023. And I did that primarily because I wanted to teach and show others how to do it, more so than me, just kind of building my own empire. Had I known what the moving industry could offer before I went to college, I would have definitely gone this route. So I would have avoided all the debt. I would have, started my own business. I really wish I got into this a decade earlier, but that's kind of where my thought process is now. Is I want to show others there's other options out there. I didn't know that back then. And I know there's a lot more online now, kind of exploring other options than just, secondary education. But back then it was like college or nothing. I felt like I was forced into college. So I know it kind of sounds weird with your brand being two college brothers, but college just wasn't. I wish there was a different way. And I guess my overall philosophy is I want to show others that there's another way. So I'm trying to build a model built on that.
Gotcha. So, like, tell me about your franchising experience. Like, obviously, we're franchising as well.
Sure.
We're still in the early stages as well. We got our first franchise sold last May, and which is like summertime in Florida, but it's spring everywhere else.
Sure.
We had to get the FDD done. We had to find the first buyer and then the second buyer. I'm curious to hear what have been your biggest hurdles to overcome in franchising.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because at one side of the stick, I want to sell franchise and I would love to have, multiple locations all over America. But at the same time, I also be very careful on who we bring in the fold. So it's a weird dichotomy when I'm, having calls with, prospective franchisees. It's like, I'm trying to sell them, but I'm also trying not to sell them. It's definitely different than a normal type of role of selling, an opportunity or investment strategy. So that part's been definitely unique in trying to figure out where's that middle ground. And as far as I guess, this being in the industry, there are a lot of players that I'm going against. I recognize that. I know I don't have the experience of a lot of other players. So, we position ourselves in the marketplace as the most affordable. We do that for a lot of reasons, but primarily so that we can offer something different than the competition. So we just want to show kind of a lower risk investment strategy without having, while still maintaining that still higher revenue mark that most other companies have. So, we can show people how to do that at a lower cost point, or at least entry into the market. I love what you said on one of your previous podcasts. You said, it's a low entry into the moving industry, but it's a high barrier for success. And that's so true. I mean, anybody can go start a moving company tomorrow. It's like landscaping. Anybody can just get a truck and a couple guys and say, oh, I have a moving company. It's like, technically, yes, but, how long is that actually going to last? And I like to say, I'm building a 100-year company. So I'm really trying to build something that, is really sustainable over time. As we're going through a bit of rough economy right now, but to me, I'm looking on the future. I'm not even thinking about this current economy, the presidency. None of that really matters. We just focus on what we control. And, might even go a little tangent from your original question, but, hopefully that kind of answers it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, just to clarify, when you say the lowest costs, you're talking about for a franchise partner to join, not necessarily the actual service that you provide, correct?
Exactly. Yep, correct. Yeah. So I know most of your watchers or viewers are probably involved with the moving industry in some form or fashion. But yeah, being the cheapest is never the best option. So yeah, not so much as far as our services we offer to our clients, but more so from franchisee or investor perspective. We're the most cost effective from getting into that industry and joining our brand.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, what about the actual service that you provide? Now, do you have a corporately run location that you use to test things, or are all of your locations franchised, independently owned, and you just oversee the franchise entity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually am in the process of selling our original, the one that I founded back in 2020. I'm in the process of selling that to our now manager. But that still acts as our, our flagship, the things we test new marketing strategies out, just test a lot of different things, training, etc. You name it. So we still run a lot of tests through that. And then, we always give the option to our franchisees to either implement something we found success with, or at least give them some pointers on things that we test out. But as you know, you've been in the industry long enough, things always change. So we don't just give like a game plan and say, hey, go do this. We know that there's things that are changing. Lead sources are always going to dry up, and we always have to find new means of marketing. That's one of the biggest things in the moving industry. So we're always consistently testing that out at our flagship location.
And remind me again, where's the flagship location and where are the other franchise locations?
Yeah, sure. So the first one is in the suburbs of Pennsylvania. It was where I was born and raised. So naturally, you start moving, or you start a company where you live. Hindsight, there's obviously a lot better markets. So I started it where I was born and raised in Norristown, Pennsylvania. And our first franchisee is in New Jersey. Just happened to be the neighboring state. And then the one we signed on right after that was also in Delaware. So ironically, they're all right next to each other, which is very helpful because we can all support each other and, it's close and local. But we're marketing nationwide, so we're not specific to a certain region. So our first one was in PA, and now Jersey was our first, Delaware second, and then Georgia. We're currently onboarding Georgia, but they are our third franchisee as well.
Gotcha. How did you find those franchise partners?
Yeah, we do a lot of marketing online. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of the sources. Our biggest one has been Biz by Sell. We get a lot of inquiries there. So that was our main source. And a lot of times it's people either just Googling or, I don't do many podcasts. So when I do, they might see me from there or just kind of see the brand. If you're in the industry, it is, competitive, but there's only so many moving franchisors. So, naturally we're going to come up and it's kind of been a good way to get some of the prospects in. And obviously we're smaller, so we don't have as big as a budget. So I would love to market a lot more. There's tons of stuff we can do on that side, but we're still learning a lot as a franchisor. We want to grow slow. We're in no rush. We want to make sure we do things right, and just really take care of the franchisees that we have.
Yeah, I share that same philosophy. We don't want to do the shotgun approach where we're trying to sell 40 franchises in the first year. I know some companies that are doing that, and more power to them if they think they can juggle that. But I don't want that pressure, that stress, because as a franchisor, the success of the franchises is ultimately on your shoulders. I mean, and not just the franchises, but the people that are running those franchises. I mean, a lot of times they're quitting a good paying job and they're, selling their house to be able to start a business, and business is risky. And, you can give them all the tools in the world, but at the end of the day, it's not you, it's them, but you're responsible for them. And it can be high pressure. I can definitely relate to that. And we're under the same mindset. We had 2 that we sold in our first year, and hoping to, kind of continue that pace, maybe pick it up a little bit as we grow and get more comfortable in the space. But it's a totally different model than moving for anybody out there that's thinking about franchising. I hear it all the time that companies that are, especially ones that are just starting out, they want to franchise, but I don't think they fully understand what franchising is. But really, it's a way to scale your business with an ownership presence and capital in each market. That, it's a fast way to raise capital to scale a business, and you have that ownership presence in each market, which is what I love about it. But at the end of the day, you do lose a lot of control. It's up to the individual to follow your system, your process, and for that market to be sustainable for your systems and processes and your formula, because sometimes things work in one market, but they may not work in another market. I'm curious, what makes Packhorse Moving different from other moving franchises and other moving companies in general on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer the actual moving part first. So we actually focus only on local moves. So I know a lot of movers like to do everything under the sun. They always want to get a junk truck, and they want to do the long distance, and they want to do this, they want to do that. So when I first started, I kind of followed the philosophy of like Converse. Like I wanted to be really good at one thing. When you say Converse, you think of one shoe. You don't think of their 100 different products. So I really wanted to focus on being good at one thing, and that for us was local. So I wanted to focus on local moves, really be dominant in that. So that's kind of like our niche, or what we focus on. So we're just really good at that. We know how to do a full house move in one day. We can crush it. And I know other movers can also do that. I guess another point that everybody always says they do, but we really focus on 5-star service. It's not just about the reviews for us. Like we really do care about our clients. So we always look to make it right, not be right. I know you experience this, especially with inventory. It's always the hang up in the moving industry. The clients always have more than what they say. So we just find solutions for our clients. How can we make this work? We know they have to be out of there most likely that day. So we're not going to sit around and argue about this and that. And we want to make sure our clients are taken care of. And, we're not going to hold grandma's stuff in our truck, just because they didn't pay yet. There's a lot of things we can get into as far as that, but there's a lot of things that show if a moving company owner actually cares about their clients and the way they do their business. So those are just a few. From the franchising aspect, I kind of mentioned earlier, the big thing, I'm obviously mentioning that we are the most affordable, but I also think we give a lot of more flexibility to our franchisees than most franchisors. First thing being is that we actually work with our franchisees to kind of build a territory that they're comfortable with. I know the reverse is kind of true, where the franchisor says, oh, here's your territory, you're buying into this. We want to make sure the territory actually will suit their needs. I see a lot of franchisors, not you, but other players in the game, they offer a small territory for a very expensive price. And I know that it's going to take a long time to make that money back. So we kind of work the opposite. We rather give you a bigger territory at a smaller cost. That way we know we're going to not guarantee success, but it just gives your odds of success a lot higher. In addition, I don't know if you've seen this from our company, but we actually switched our model to a flat royalty fee model. So it's not percentage based. We do flat. I actually learned this from a gentleman named Mike Andes, not in the moving industry, but he has a lawn care service called Augusta Lawn Care. I believe he was based out of Florida. I could be wrong on that. But he's gone over about 100 locations, but he has that model where it's a flat fee. And I really like that for my franchisee. Now, the franchisor doesn't make out in that situation, which is fine because from a percentage-based perspective, we as a franchisor would make a lot more money if we were percentage-based, but we wanted the franchisee to get to reap more of the benefits. So that's another reason why we're definitely different than most franchisors. I have not seen anyone in the moving industry provide a model based on a flat fee.
Got it. Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part? This resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to Moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's Moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email. One of the worst parts about owning a moving company has to be finding quality movers and drivers. Trying to run all the job ads takes up time, and then you schedule guys to come in for interviews and they never show up. It's a massive headache. Well, let me tell you about a good friend of mine named Winston who runs a company called Move Up Consulting. Move Up specializes in hiring and recruiting for the moving and storage industry, and they do all the lead generation for mover and driver candidates. They have a fully built hiring CRM, plus you get a dedicated account manager who phone interviews and screens all of your candidates. Once they find qualified candidates, they schedule in-person interviews for you and your management team so you can make great hires. They even handle all the appointment confirmations. It's that simple. To start building a better moving team today, visit moveupconsulting.com and tell them Wade sent you. Want to know what the silver bullet for growing your business is? USA Home Listings. USA Home Listings has a myriad of marketing services that are essential to every single moving company. It blows my mind when I have conversations with people who reach out looking for help, trying to get leads, trying to get the phone to ring, that aren't doing mailers and aren't subscribed to USA Home Listings. The data there is so invaluable, and it's not just home listing data, even though that's an awesome, super easy, super intuitive feature that they provide where you can filter out all the homes that recently went under contract or got listed in your neighborhood, and a new coming soon feature before it even hits the MLS that you can filter out through zip codes, towns, cities, counties, prices. But that's just one small feature that they do. They also have turnkey mailing services. They'll help you design your postcard, a postcard that actually gets results. If If you've tried mailers in the past and it didn't work, it's probably because you didn't have the right elements on your postcard. And they also have a social media division. So check out usahomelistings.com. It's an essential addition to all of your marketing needs. Before you do any other marketing, check out usahomelistings.com. So are you concerned at all, like with your low franchise fees and your flat fee model? Like, does that concern you that your franchisor organization is going to be able to be stable and fund itself? I guess tell me a little bit about how that's structured and what your goals are with that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And sure, I'm definitely taking some profit off the table that I can easily take or more incorporate into the model. But our model really isn't based on that. So the good thing about me being the sole owner is that I don't really need much. I don't have a whole team and a staff, that I support. So it's really just me right now. So I can essentially pick and choose how I want to, dictate that. And I know a lot of the franchises don't have that flexibility. Again, that's just our strategy. There's obviously a lot of benefits if I had a whole, sales team, selling franchises. That model definitely works clearly, but it's just not my model. So my model is more focused on the success of the franchisee, and eventually we'll get there. But yeah, with scale, things change. I know you know this. With scale, we'll develop that team on the franchisor side. It just means I have to grow slower, and just means I'm not taking any money from the company, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm going to keep reinvesting in the company, and obviously reinvesting our franchisees. That's my number one priority.
Gotcha. Yep. And so tell me a little bit, like what kind of support do you offer to the franchisees? Do you have like a training program, systems, processes? Like what do they get when they join your organization?
Yeah, obviously probably the biggest question that everybody asks, right? Like why would I join, Packhorse versus any other, brand? Yeah, I would assume that comes included with every franchisor. I don't know any franchisor that would not offer that, but we definitely do. I mean, we offer everything from how to get your LLC all the way to how to close out a job. We literally cover every base you can think of in running a company. So we just happen to be in the moving industry. So when you jump into franchising, and I think this is to your point earlier where you mentioned some people they have a great moving company, they want to be a franchisor. Being a franchisor to me is more about how to run a company, because it's not just about the moving industry. You also have to know, how to handle payroll, how to handle the books, training, firing, hiring, everything. So it's literally how do we run a company, and that's kind of how we approach the franchisor, side of the business is how do we actually do that. So yeah, we show our franchisees everything, and as you know, with franchisees and the prospects you dealt with, everyone has different levels of where they're at. So I'm not sure if, someone's run a moving company before, they've been in management before, they've done payroll before. Everybody has their own strength. They've been in sales before, marketing. So we literally show every aspect, and we cover those gaps. And that one of our franchises is really good at sales, but he's not good at payroll. One of our franchisees is good at payroll, but not good at sales. We give the whole package, and that's the value we really add, is we cover every base.
Gotcha. Yeah. What are some of the goals? Where do you want to get to?
Yeah, it's funny because people always say, like, what number do you want to get? And I don't look at it as a number perspective, because if I did that, I would easily just, plug more money in and, just bring on more people and say yes a lot more. But to me, I really look at, again, thinking the 100-year strategy is what's the quality that we're putting out. So I really care about the brand. I really care about the quality of life for my franchisee. What does that look like? Because you and I both know running a moving company is not easy. It might look like a quick buck, but there's certainly a lot of challenges that come with it. And we just really look for people we want to partner with on a long-term strategy and, build quality over time. That's kind of how we look at it. So, I know we talked off the pod before we started about Hormozy, but Alex Hormozy is being the Buffett and Charlie Munger, just the long-term mindset. And a lot of things happen over time. And that's really my strategy, is that I can't control the economy we're in right now. I didn't choose to have this. I didn't choose to take revenue down 30%. Like, none of that was by my choosing or my doing. And I kind of preach that across our company, is that, hey, just stick it out. We're doing everything we can. Let's just see it to the end. And we have a very long-term mindset. So I think as far as like, what are my metrics? Like, what am I judging myself upon? It's just really making sure that the franchisees that come my way, I take the best care of them. And I don't look at more of a number perspective. If I had 2 versus 10, my mindset would be the same. Just make sure I'm taking care of my franchisees.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you involved with any other businesses or like your background? I mean, before you got into moving, like what else are you involved with, I guess, that
Sure.
like you can apply to moving? Because I'm a big fan of like reading between the lines. You know, I love listening to the Home Service Expert podcast with Tommy Mello. It doesn't have anything to do with moving per
Sure.
se. It's still home
Yeah.
service, related, but
Yep.
he runs a garage door company. He's going to be speaking at our retreat in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I love taking things from other industries. Have you been able to apply that? Do you have any other ventures currently?
No, I don't. But to answer your question, and that pod with Tommy was great, by the way. If anybody hasn't seen it, check it out. Great pod. He's a great guy. But yeah, as far as other ventures, I know if I distract myself, I guess what I've learned from other people and doing my research is that if you try to do too many things at once, you don't really do any of them right, or at least succeed in any one area. So no, my whole focus is the blue horse. I only care about Packhorse Moving. I only focus on Packhorse Moving. I only think about Packhorse Moving. I'm all in. So I'm all in, and nothing else has my time and attention except for, yeah, maybe my daughter. But everybody has family and friends outside of work. But as far as work goes, no, I really do have a passion for this industry. I really have a passion for teaching and training, people how to run a company, and it just happens to be in the moving industry, which again, I love and I'm passionate about. So yeah, I mean, I stay here, and I mentioned earlier that, I definitely look at other industries to try to get some business advice. Business advice goes across industries. So, I'm always looking around and seeing how I can implement and change things, make things better.
What marketing have you found that works in your region? I know all of your locations are fairly close to one another, and we touched on it a little bit ago. Sometimes something works in one market but doesn't work in another. Like, what are you finding is kind of the key to each location's growth up in the Northeast area that you serve?
Yeah, definitely. I think, at least from the moving industry perspective, I know a lot of the top three I always hear is word of mouth. We could probably throw mailers in there, and probably repeat customers, which I didn't have the repeat customers. I started from scratch. So I was like, okay, great. I don't have the repeat customers. All right. How do we get word of mouth? So I was like, okay, well, we obviously provide a great service. So from like a foundational level, we make sure we provide 5-star service. If we do that, one, we'll get a good SEO, just great reviews. That's probably been our biggest success, is just having, really good rating on Google. So the rating side, and more importantly, actually providing great service, because then we do get recommendations. Those don't turn over as quickly as because it's more of a volume play. We can't say, hey, is your neighbor moving? Is your best friend moving? Because usually people move only 1 to 3 years. So that's more of a longer term play as well. And for us, mailers have actually not worked in our industry or up in our region. We've tried a bunch of different kinds. It might just be saturated in our area. So, to your point of, trying new things, always trying new marketing strategies. Every region is really different, especially with competition. A lot of competition might be doing the same thing. So I think one of our biggest success is going out in the community, meeting with apartment complex managers, storage units. We obviously do the online third-party leads just because of it's just super fast and efficient. Obviously there's some quantity there, but not as much quality. So we really dip our feet into everything. We do lawn signs. I mean, you name the marketing method. We probably tested it, or we at least are still utilizing it if it did work.
Give me a rundown of like a day in your life. A day in my life. You mentioned you have a general manager running your corporate location. You're trying to sell to him.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what does your typical routine look like running Packhorse?
Yeah, in truth, it is developed into a river. I call it, I'm a river. So every day I have a set structure, but I know that structure could deviate. I'm always thinking big picture now. Before I was in the weeds, doing the daily, I'll call it the daily grind, because it wasn't a grind to me. I loved it. But, every day is different. I would say the main things I focus on is just how do I look in the future, look ahead to potential problems, the potential things that can get in the way of our train on the tracks. What's down the line, what's down the road, how do I identify those, way in advance of actually, coming up against that. So, everybody keeps saying, oh, the market's going to turn. I'm actually thinking the opposite. What if the market doesn't turn? What do we do? I'm always thinking of that. I'm always trying to improve any little area I can, whether it's, developing the website more, learning more about SEO, just providing more content on socials. I mean, you name it, I'm trying to focus on it. So I'm always trying to, focus on that. So it definitely looks different every day. and obviously supporting franchisees, as you know, in the business, it could either take up a lot of time or no time. It's very sporadic on when that happens. I'm very open with my franchisees, so I'm easily accessible as far as the ongoing support. So I'm right here, and I'm in their corner. I feel like sometimes I'm running, multiple locations, even though I'm not technically the owner. So I put that hat on. I act like I am. So
do you spend a lot of time like going to each location or talking to your franchisees on a daily basis? Like, what do you do for them on a personal level?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is more based virtually. So I like to promote that, we're a virtual moving company. I like to do everything virtual. I feel like it's fast, and two, it's cost effective. You don't have to fly me all around the country and, put me up in a hotel and buy me a nice steak dinner. Although I appreciate it, I don't need that. I'd rather my franchisees plug all their capital into growing their business or paying their guys well or more marketing or, God forbid, take out a profit every now and then. So, that's what my focus is on. So a lot of it is supported virtually, but I have daily communication, weekly, monthly, yearly, quarterly, you name it. We have it all set up. And that's hopefully one of the best things that I provide to my franchisees is that my support is unmatched. So you have access to me at all times. And more importantly, it's not just access to somebody. It actually would be worth your time to reach out to me. So if you just reach out to me just to chat, I'm very strategic with our chats, I should say. I want to accomplish things. We don't just say, oh, how's the weather? We definitely don't do that. So it's not no weather chat. It's if you come to me with something, we're going to solve it, man. We're going to figure out a solution and, really focus on how we can make things better for our employees and our crews and ultimately our clients. So yeah, that's what I focus on with our franchisees. And yeah, it's been on a virtual basis. It could change over time, but it's just so efficient, and I'm able to do a lot more with that strategy and with that type of practice. Yeah.
Love that. This last few months have been obviously the slow season, but in my experience,
Sure.
It's been probably one of the worst slow seasons since I got into the moving industry, over 12, 13 years ago. You came in 2020 when the market was like ramping up and on fire. How have you and your franchise partners handled the storm? How are you weathering the storm with them as things kind of ground to a halt when the interest rates shot up about a year and a half ago, whenever that was, when that started to happen? Like, what's it been like for you guys, especially, in the early years, so to speak, relatively speaking?
Yeah, you could just say early year, which is good. But yeah, I mean, I'll be transparent. It's definitely been tough. So, we're facing the same thing that every other moving company is facing. It's definitely been slow. It's been challenging. And obviously, only being in it for a year, it's probably, like you said, it's been probably one of the worst years. That's when our franchisees are coming in, when it's the worst. So I guess from a more of like a leadership perspective, just letting them know like, hey, this too shall pass, and it will. But more like a practical day-to-day operation, we operate very lean. We don't have a lot of overhead. We based our model on a low risk structure and very low capital. So there's not a lot of risk that we take on. We're very debt averse. So we're not, heavily in debt. We don't have, $3,000 lease payments that are due and all this kind of stuff. So we just try to structure it differently from the front end to kind of weather these storms. So I built the model that way, even starting in 2020 when things were good, but just knowing how things are cyclical, especially in this industry. I knew there would be a storm. I just didn't know when. I knew the rainy day was coming. I just didn't know when it was going to rain. Even though this in Florida, you've been having some rain, and it usually doesn't rain as much down there, but the rain does come eventually.
Yeah, we get our fair share of rainy days. They call it the Sunshine State, but but in the summertime it rains pretty much every single day, even if it's only for an hour or so. But in the wintertime, this has been a very cold and dreary winter weather-wise. In addition
matching the moving industry for sure.
Yeah, to talk in a literal sense and not even a metaphor, but. It's been tough. I'm going to be talking about this in a couple weeks at our retreat where we're bringing in a bunch of moving company owners, a lot of speakers. It's a great time to tighten up. I mean, a shake up, and that's no pun intended. I know it's tighten retreats. That's our slogan, is tighten up, but it is. Yeah. I mean, we've all got to take a look at every single aspect of our business and see what were we kind of getting away with during those good times. And I think the slow season is really the best time to start a moving company, whether you're a franchise or you're just getting started, because you don't know any better. I mean, for companies that start off when times are good, you can get away with a lot of bad habits. You get a lot of low hanging fruit, but when you start off and things are tight and you have to really scrap and grind to get business, and you have to make sure that when you do get business, it's done the right way. It just, you build good habits that way.
Yep.
And I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of companies that maybe they started 10 years ago, but they got really comfortable for 2 or 3 years there, and they started to develop a lot of bad habits, or they brought on people on their teams. Their salespeople just got used to taking orders. Their movers, they could afford to pay out off claims or not worry so much about their reputation because there was just so much business that there weren't enough companies to handle it all. And now, like, every single move counts. Every single piece of furniture you pick up counts. Every single lead, quote form, call that comes in, it all counts. It all adds up, because if you can't afford to be making expensive mistakes or missing out on opportunities right now, everybody's getting aggressive. Everybody's getting really competitive with price. Everybody is basically weeding out their subpar movers. So the good movers are basically fighting for hours right now. And so, it's a challenging situation. And, at the end of the day, though, the good companies are going to survive it, and they're going to be very well positioned in the market, because the less than good companies, the subpar companies, are going to get shaken out. They're going to leave. They're going to find other stuff to do. It's just like real estate. You always see in a hot housing market, you get every housewife, every person that like does it on the side, people right out of college, like they all want to become realtors. They quit, their other jobs or whatever, but they're not good, or they don't do it full time, and they're not serious about it. And then in an economy like this, it shrivels back up, and there's only a handful of realtors left. Really the moving industry is very similar. It's a similarly low barrier to entry industry, but like I've said before, it's a high barrier to success. And that's why I love franchising too, is because you're part of a network, part of an organization that can band together, that can really lift each other up and help each other out, and use purchasing power and brand leverage and different things to try to escape that shakeout. But that's ultimately what we're doing with the Moving Titans too. It's basically independent moving company owners from all over the country, even the world, that are banding together to help each other out, share insights, share knowledge on things that are working, hold each other accountable, and just help each other weather the storm. And that's ultimately what we're all trying to do here. And lift up the industry to make it better.
Can I throw a question to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
What have you seen? Because I think you're around during 2007, 2008 timeframe, correct?
I was actually graduating high school.
Okay, so you just
so I wasn't in the moving business.
Gotcha. Okay, so you didn't get to experience that aspect of that economy, or from high to low that quickly, I guess.
No, I got into my first kind of hand at moving probably would have been the summer of 2009. So I was still kind of there. I was just basically freelancing, 2009, 2010, posting ads on Craigslist and just, charging 10, 12, 15 bucks an hour to help people load and unload trucks. So, back then, that was actually kind of my in, I think, because people didn't want to pay for movers. Everybody was trying to cut costs and do things as cheap as they could. So, so hiring somebody for 10, 12, 15 bucks an hour was kind of the way to go back then. Now, it's, you don't know what you're going to get if you hired somebody off Craigslist. Probably back then too, but they got lucky.
But not with Wade. They just got lucky
they got
with
lucky
you.
with me.
Most $10 an hour guys, I'm sure you still find them, but you don't want
that's also when $10 an hour was actually, something. Now it's not even minimum wage in most states. So that it was a little bit of a different time for sure. And there wasn't as much of the online presence, the reviews. That was back when the yellow pages were still there. They were starting to fade out, but they were still a force for sure. And so, Craigslist was kind of the online yellow pages, so to speak, or the online, phone book or directory, whatever, classified section. That's what I'm looking for, the online classified section. So, so I really didn't, I didn't go through it. Most of the companies that I talk to, in fact, that are either on this podcast or that come to our retreats, or just that I'm friends with, I don't know if you're part of the Moving Company Owners Unite Facebook group, but it seems like most companies started between that 2008 to 2012 timeframe. I think that's kind of when the last big shakeout was. And you saw a lot, this kind of like this new generation of moving companies get started. And, kind of the online generation, the people that understood the internet and didn't, that hadn't been in the business forever, and the old school type type people that, were running it with the newspaper classifieds, yellow pages, whatever. They've kind of started, there's still some around that have adapted or whatever, but they have just survived solely on their reputation, depending on the market. But a lot of the companies that are involved on Facebook and that come to our retreats, that listen to this podcast, that I have on this podcast, are kind of part of that newer generation. Millennials, maybe towards the higher end of it, under 50, 45 and under typically is what we see. Sometimes we get younger guys. I haven't talked to a whole lot of really young guys, though, that were 21, 22, 23, 24, starting moving companies. It seems like that slowed down a little bit, 5, 10, and maybe it's just because I've gotten older, but 5, 10 years ago, I feel like, right? I feel like half the companies were, owned by kids in their 20s or maybe their early 30s. But I think these shakeouts, they bring opportunities, they bring new people into the business, and they bring people into the business that just develop good habits from the beginning, and they tend to stick around for a while. So, what they say, like, I think it's, hard times build strong men build good times build weak men. And, I think that a lot of that holds true in our line of work.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Yeah, I think it could be more of you're now at the level where you've been doing it for so long, and I say so long because I view you as one of the vets. You might still think you're one of the new kids on the block, but you're definitely into that like veteran category, at least in my mind, my humble estimation. So I think you probably just are more involved with more movers who are along that line. But there's definitely a fair share of young movers who are trying to get in the industry. It's just hard for them to make a name. You know how it is when you first start out. It's a lot different. So they're not well known. You don't know they're out there. They're out there grinding. So any of you youngsters out there, keep grinding. You'll be on Wade's podcast one day. Yeah. So I think there's definitely people out there doing it. They just don't get the love and attention because they're working hard. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's my philosophy or theory. More of a theory, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So you said you're a pretty self-educated guy. What are some of the other things that you've found that have helped you learn about not only the moving industry, but business? Are there any book recommendations, seminars, online courses, anything like that that you've participated in or read or attended that have helped you out a lot?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, or if I had to give advice to anyone, is find information that you don't know. So when I first started the moving company, I paid for a consultation with all the big players, at least the players that were offering it. Tim Krupp, you probably heard of Max Mayer. He was doing it. He doesn't do it so much anymore, but he was out in Arizona. I know Jay Burnham. So I literally reached out to everybody. I paid for their time. I paid for their knowledge. And back then I thought that was crazy. I'm like, why am I paying these people? This is nuts. But then the value I got, I was like, wow, why are more people not doing this? This is crazy. I felt like I got jump started in the industry for only a half hour, a couple bucks. Wow, this is great. I guess I would say find something that you're not good at and learn how to do it, or have somebody teach you to do it, pay for somebody to teach you how to do it. Because everyone's different. So everyone might have a different weakness that they have to find out. For me, I had a lot of weaknesses coming into the industry, so I had a lot to learn. So I definitely went everywhere I could. I turned over every rock I could just to see how things were being done. And then, I figured out a good way for me to make my break into the industry and do things kind of my way, because it is my company and it is my hard-earned money and my capital, and I'm in control of my own destiny. So sink or swim, I'm putting all the responsibility on myself to do so. So I'm definitely learning from others. I respect everybody who's in the industry, but I definitely want to do things my way.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's the entrepreneurial spirit right there. Any books that you recommend?
I think you just recommended on the last podcast, so I don't want to steal it, but Alex Hormozy just came out with I'm a big fan of Alex for a lot of reasons, but his $100 million offers and just kind of even just watching his trajectory and just kind of his overall philosophy on life and business has been a huge help. So I don't get that in my daily life. It's very hard to go next door to your neighbor and talk to Bob at the mailbox and say, hey, what are you up to? Because usually they're not in line with kind of what you're thinking and going through. So I try to reach out to individuals or, watch individuals that I really respect or kind of want to be one day. And it kind of sounds silly. I'm a grown man. I'm 35, but I definitely look up to a lot of people and just kind of how they're living. So Alex is probably another one that I would like to watch. Moving industry specifically, definitely stuff that you're doing. I don't think there's not a lot of players in the game, but it definitely, there's not as many as people would think. So everybody knows Louis Massaro. I've watched all his stuff. He's amazing. Everybody's great in the industry. That's, but we try to give a education or teach online. So yeah, industry specific, I definitely watched everything that there is under the sun. I try to learn more, but a lot of it is starts to get into like practice. You got to start doing stuff. So I don't know if that is a good answer to your question. I listen to a lot of Alex Hormozi. So I'm a big YouTube guy. I don't read as much as I used to.
Yeah, no, Alex Hormozi has really good stuff. Both of his books, I think he's working on a third one right now, but both of his other ones I've taken a ton away from. So good answer with that. And if you want to get around more people that are doing big things like the Tim Krupps, Tim Krupp and his companies, and Eric Works, and of course myself, Chad. I don't know if here comes my shameless plug, but come to the Moving Time Retreat in a couple weeks.
I love it.
There's no better place to be than that room with Tommy Mello's going to be there, Andy Elliott. We don't have Alex Hormozi yet, but we're going to work on him to get on to one of these future ones. But it's a great opportunity to get around like-minded people, because you're right, it's lonely at the top. You can't just go talk to your next door neighbor and really relate to them. It's hard to find people to relate to when you run a company, let alone a moving company, let alone a franchise in the moving space. Like, very few people can relate to the struggles that we go through, and it's a tough business, and it's a tough time for a tough business. So it's events like that. We put them together so that we can bring this community together. So we can talk offline on that, but definitely, I scraped every penny that I could put together to go to one of my first Louis Massaro conference back around the time I started this podcast, and it was a total game changer. I mean, I started this podcast to seek out that mentorship that you've already done, and it's really blossomed into some cool things. But it was right around that time that I was desperate for answers, desperate for a roadmap, because I watched as many of the YouTube channels and read all the books and listened to Audible and the podcasts, but like there was nothing specific for the moving industry at that point in time. I struggled for 5 years trying to apply all these different principles from all these different industries, and my master's degree in business and entrepreneurship and all these different things. And I had friends that owned other types of businesses, but nothing could give me the answers I needed that were moving specific. And then through this podcast, through Louis Massaro's conference, and through the Facebook groups, I was able to learn so much. It was like a switch flipped, and that year 2018 was probably our biggest pivotal year, because it all just kind of started to come together. So we're hoping to provide those resources for people that are getting into the business now. And if they choose to buy one of our franchises, that's an added bonus, but we don't even necessarily, not even aiming for that. We just want to build a solid community that everybody can maintain that mentality of abundance at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if I could sneak one more question, is that one of the main reasons why you went to the franchise route, is the kind of provide that value that you've developed over the past decade, provide that to other people as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I dreamed of franchising since day one. I mean, I didn't, before I even really understood what it entailed, I just thought it was a cool concept. And as I learned more about it, I liked it even more. But I basically like to say that I spent the last 12, 13 years making mistakes so that somebody who follows our model doesn't have to make those mistakes. And I've been able to basically, what I think, reverse engineer not only the perfect moving experience, but the perfect business model for moving, because I've tried to take the best elements from all those different resources, from Louis Massaro's to the people that I talk to on the podcast, to the people that I mastermind with at the retreats, to all of the stuff that I've accumulated over Facebook, and then the 13 years of trial and error. And self-education and everything else. So yeah, I think, it does fit really well into franchising, and I can relate really well to owners. And so that's, sometimes tough to do when you have a remote location and you can't be there every day. It's tough to always relate to a manager that you don't get to see all the time. Whereas like an owner, they're more independent and they have more on the line. So they're going to just put in a little bit of that extra effort. And, I love it so far. It's been a journey, and I'm still learning something new every day, but I'm just going to continue to do that.
Yeah. And the accountability aspect too. It's so crucial. And you probably see this even just with movers. It's so hard to kind of teach or show how to be accountable for your actions. But generally or naturally, if you're owning something, you just feel more accountable to that asset.
100%.
So, that model obviously was very appealing to me as well for the franchise side, is, when I was running the day-to-day operations, I felt like I was the only one who cared. I was just like, God, this is great. Isn't this fun? And they're like, what do you, this sounds crazy. And I am, but I wanted other people who were just as crazy as I was. And it's hard to do that from a hiring perspective because most people are looking for jobs for money, not for the enthusiasm that I had. I literally can never pay myself. I would still love what I was doing. That was probably not true about anybody I hired ever. But I can say that's definitely true for my franchisees, which I love. So it's definitely different in that aspect of it, on being on that side. I'm definitely going to keep watching and learning from you as always. So, I know I mentioned earlier, but definitely a huge fan of your work. And again, I'm honored and very appreciative that you have me on here.
Well, I appreciate it, Ryan. Ryan Ferrier, everybody, with Packhorse Moving, franchising up in the Mid-Atlantic / Northeast. Not really sure what you could consider your area, but
I call the nation, baby. We just happen to be in the Northeast primarily
franchising
right now,
across the nation.
Across the nation. That's right.
Love it. Well, hopefully I see you in the next few weeks, or at least at the next retreat. It was great talking with you, Ryan, and good luck to you and everything you're doing.
Thanks, Wade. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you'd like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for a Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.